recording going on now, so we appreciate your patience, and we'll hear the first case, which is Stephen R. Love, 19 Property Tax Commission 0233. We have Mr. Batten representing the county, and Mr. Love, you're representing yourself. You have no attorney, I believe. So what we'd like to do is to start out by getting an opening statement from you, Mr. Love, and then we'll let the county, Mr. Batten, have an opening statement, and then we will get into your testimony and evidence. So, Mr. Love.
Just some things here. I assume my ignorance, may hurt me, but my content here, when I got my new assessment for 2019, which was just a few months after Hurricane Florence had come through here and just was a disaster in Boiling Spring Lake, I had paid a premium to be on the lakefront of what's called the Big Lake, where we can do boating and skiing and swimming and all these sorts of things. And of course, that lake was destroyed during Hurricane Florence. And when I got my new tax assessment, I was kind of expecting a lower assessment, when in fact my assessment went up over $20,000, a little over $22,000 more than before. And I was just having a hard time believing that my property, when I had a beautiful lake out back, now I have nothing but weeds in a gully that is worth $22,000 more than it was prior to, me having a lake, to when I had a lake. So that's kind of the start of what I'm wanting to say. Okay,
Mr. Batten, for the county, opening statement.
Yes, sir. Very briefly, I think the commission will find that our value is not arbitrary and meets market value. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Love, are you going to be your only witness?
I am, sir.
Okay. All right. You're testifying now, so this is the under oath aspect of it. And we'll hear from you as to your testimony and any other evidence you'd like to offer.
Well, how do I show exhibits? I'm even willing to use the exhibits that the county has presented.
All right.
I spoke with the county. I spoke with the county on several times via phone. We've traded emails quite a few times, but we'll go to the exhibits they've used, which I appreciate. I mean, what they've sent, and if we could go to page or what they call Exhibit 4.
All right, we'll go to Exhibit 4.
On this page, as we can see, what I kept asking the county to do, I want to compare the old saying, apples to apples. Every house they've given you, the comps 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the next page, every one of these houses were sold prior to the hurricane coming through and wiping out the lake, that we have no lake. These are not comps on lakefront property. Now, I realize comp number 1 says that it was sold November 28, 2018, when the hurricane came through September the 12th of 2018, but I sent on several occasions to the county. True, the house did not close until November 28th, but it went under contract in July. So every house here, they're giving houses when there was a lake here. So now we have apples. Now we have no lake. So now we have oranges. We're not comparing the same anymore. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, to me, just logic and common sense says that property value that's lakefront, when I paid premium to be on the lakefront, is no longer lakefront, and from everything we understand, it's going to be at least another 3 to 4 more years before we have a lake back. So we will be somewhere between 5 and 6 years of having a lake. So all I kept asking the county for is just give me some comps of lakefront property that's selling now that the lake is gone. But the problem is they can't, because houses aren't selling. 1 or 2 maybe have, but overall there's nothing here selling. I think I'm speaking correctly in saying they can't give me, several comps, because there's no comps to be had.
Okay, anything further?
Well, we could go back to their Exhibit 7.
Okay.
They give 3 houses I'm seeing listed there. And the very first house, when I look at page, I don't see a page number, but it is the second page behind it, third page behind Exhibit 7. There's 1, 2, on the third page, it lists the 3 houses across the top and what they sold for and when they sold. Now, I'll give, again, these did sell evidently after, or at least the closing dates were after the hurricane. If we look at the top one, they've got land value of $119,000, which you'll see is on 2 lots. So my house is only on 1 lot, which they thought the value is $70,000. In his package here, in their exhibits, they have the value of my lot at $70,000. So we automatically need to back $49,000 out of the sales price of that $335,000 on that house, which takes you down to $286,000 instead of the $335,000, which makes that house come out to $129 a square foot. If you use the second house, they've got that house at $99 a square foot. And if you use the third house, they've got that house at $138 a square foot, whereas they have me on here with my $302,000 valuation at $146 a square foot. I'm willing to go with any of the property values of any of this. I mean, I've offered several times to compromise. I'd ask for a reduction, but I have several times sent several emails offering a compromise just to go back to my previous year's value, as opposed to even asking for reduction and let's get this put behind. But there was never any consideration, I'm assuming, because I never heard back from them. But the bottom line, what they're giving you, everything here basically is either a lot cheaper per square foot than mine, that they're valuing my house at, or they've sold prior to the lake. The valuations were done. We know, we saw actual appraisers walking around out through the yards and lots and stuff, like in the summer of 2018, prior to the hurricane coming in September of 2018. So we know, those valuations were being done when there was still a lake here. So my contention is that there's just no way that my property value went up by $22,000 now that I don't have a lake anymore.
All right, Mr. Love, what do you contend?
Yes, sir.
So we'll be clear, what do you contend the value of your property should be?
Well, I had initially said $250,000 because they had me at $280 before. My prior assessment was $280,000. I was asking to be lowered. But I had offered a compromise several times, saying I'm okay to go back to the $280,000 plus, $280,600 or something that my prior assessment was. I'd just go back and just not being raised, even though I feel it's worth less, because I would never come by my house now with that ugly gully out in back of my, just full of weeds and trees and junk out there now. It's just not appealing to buy. And I certainly wouldn't now, but I'm willing to go back. I'm asking for at least that much from you, to at least go back to where I was at prior to the hurricane coming through.
All right, so I think you're saying now that you would consider the fair market value of your house to be $280,600. Okay.
Yes, sir.
See,
Yes, sir.
I think somebody's got a question. All right, so what else would you, is there a picture of your house with the lake in here you want to point us to? And with it dry and with it...
I mean, I don't know how can I bring that up on the computer? I've got it in my computer, but I don't know. Now, I did mail that. That was in my mailing back in May that I sent up there. No, I did not send 6 copies, that's part of my fault. But my original mailing, yes, I had pictures before and after.
All right, let's see if there's something in the file. There is, looks like, I don't know who submitted this, but it's with a letter apparently that you sent. It's a black and white copy, and on it says "now," which appears to be a dot going out into what apparently used to be a lake. And then the next page,
Right,
I guess.
And if you go to the next page, I believe you'll see prior.
Okay, all right. I think we have that. So that's in the record, and I assume, let me ask, we don't have an order of between the parties, I don't think, like we normally would, but Mr. Batten, there you are. Do you have any objection to these 2 pictures that he sent in with his
No, sir.
original letter? Okay. And you may have some others that we'll get into. Is there, and we have your letter, that's in the record, so we'll consider that in the evidence. Mr. Love, is there anything else that you want us to consider or you want to point out about, you said, the county's exhibits?
Not that I can think of this time, no, sir. I thank you for allowing me to present my exhibit.
All right, questions from the commissioners, Mr. Guest? Let's see, let's go to Exhibit 7. There's a photo. I guess it's 6, the end of 6. End of 6. Well, there's 1, 6, and 7. Which one are you referring to? Okay, the one in 7. All right. Can we have somebody identify what the exhibit number 7 for the county is? Mr. Love, can you identify that, or do we need to get Mr. Batten to do that?
I guess Mr. Batten would need to, because a lot of it was Greek to me, because they mainly used parcel numbers, which I don't really understand.
Okay, Mr. Batten, can you clarify?
Excuse me, this is the court reporter.
All right, just a minute. Hold on, Ms. Rice, yes.
Mr. Guest, is your microphone on?
Mr.
My
Guest?
microphone was off, yes.
You're much better now.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Mr. Batten, can you have Mr. Idle identify this since we're using the county's exhibits?
Yes, sir. Mr. Idle, can you please turn to Exhibit 7?
Okay.
And there are 2 areas with what look like road names. Can you please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Exhibit 7, these are post rebound date sales. We're trying to find a trend if we made the decision not to adjust for the lake being drained or not. These were sales after the rebound date, and the photo, the blue ones are the sales itself, and the subject is marked. But these are the sales that happened up through March 9th of 2020.
right, let me see if I understood you. There's some blue rectangles on here, and you said those were sales that were identified in some of the written pages there. Is that correct?
Yes, so those are the sales, that were comparable to the best sales we had up to March 20th.
All right, let me ask you. I see appears to be a blue dot up in the upper left-hand corner. Is that the subject property, or what is that? If I'm seeing a blue dot there.
The subject is marked down at the bottom now. If you're looking at the exhibit with the three comparables and all the data sheet, the map right behind it is the one I assume we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the subject is marked. It's labeled subject down the left.
You're breaking up some. I didn't understand the last thing you said.
I'm sorry. The subject is marked subject. And it's down in the, if you're looking at it in the book, it's in the right lower corner. And the other three are the comparables on the data sheet that are shown. And they're all lakefront sales.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, that's good. Go ahead.
Mr. Otto, this is Commissioner Guest. So in Exhibit 7 at the back, there's an aerial photograph. And in that aerial photograph at the top, well, I'm looking at it, it's got the subject in the bottom right corner. On the top right corner, it says South Shore.
Correct.
And then it has three properties that are on the left top that are outlined in blue, which I believe are your comparables.
Correct.
I just want to confirm that this aerial photograph is an aerial photograph of the subject property and the lake that is now drained. This is after the dam was broken.
Correct.
And, okay, so this is with the drained lake.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I see now, I was looking actually at the map behind, so I see, and this one sets it out much clearer as to those county comps and the subject property. Any further questions, Mr. Guest?
Mr. Batten, well, let me ask Mr. Idle. Mr. Idle, what was the date of the hurricane in comparison to the revaluation?
The hurricane was early September. Revaluation was January 1. So we had very little window there to determine if that drain lake was going to make any difference in values or not, because we knew the lake would probably be coming back and it would be repairing it. We just didn't have a time schedule on that at the time. And this has happened in the past. So the drain before, the sinkholes and things going back. And
Mr. Idle,
it's never influenced values.
Mr. Idle, just wait a minute. We'll get into your testimony in a minute. We're trying to identify right now the property, and then we'll get into to try to clarify that when the county's putting on their evidence or cross-examination. And your question? Okay. All right.
Mr.
So
Hunter?
doing things a little
Mr. Hunter?
differently just because of the exhibits and being the counties and trying to identify them. All right. Someone's trying to get my attention, I think. Is that Mr. Love?
When I have a chance to speak about what he was just saying, this is Steve Love again, yes. I mean,
okay,
he gave you the same three. I believe he gave you the same three comps that I was talking about. He said those circled in blue were properties that were sold afterwards, which I totally agree with. But that is where I was saying we're not quite comparing apples to apples again, because the top one, if you look at them where they're listed, just the page before the aerial picture showing the blue, the top one is 2 lots. I'm not on 2 lots. So they have that land value at $119,000, whereas my land value is $70,000 because I'm on 1 lot. So you've got to back out that difference just to get back down. So that $335,000 sale would be equivalent to a $286,000 sale, which would put it down to 127. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, let me ask you, are you contesting the value of your improvement, your house, or the value of the land, or both?
Well, the entire, I mean, as that house is valued right there, they've got the sales price is $335,000, and they say this breaks down to $149 a square foot, which is because it's a 2,200 and 4,100 square foot house. But in that value, in that total 335, they're including the lots, obviously. And my lot is, I'm only on one lot, so you would have to back out, you know, the $50,000, the $49,000 that they're adding for that second lot, because if you see, that's two lots. So you can't compare a house being on two lots the same as one being on one lot. And then the second house, as they're showing, is only $99 a square foot. I mean, I'll take that all day long, because that put the value of my house at only about $200,000, because my house is 2,076 square feet. I mean, any of these valuations that you see on here, they've got me at $146 a square foot, and any of these valuations we use here would take me down anywhere between the 260s and 280s.
Okay, anything else?
And these are sales after the lake was gone. So yeah, hey, I'm willing to go with what they've got. I'm good with that.
All right, anything else, Mr. Love?
Not from anything I've heard so far. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Batten, cross-examination.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Love, will you agree your house was built in 2015?
I'm sorry that it broke up. What did you say?
Your house was built in 2015, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And on the exhibit you've been talking about with the square footages, those homes were built in 1967, 1998, and 1972, correct?
That's what I think. I believe that's what that means, yes.
Okay. Would you agree that all three of those homes are lakefront?
I'm going to agree with what you've said that they are, because I don't see the addresses, so I will assume and say yes, they are.
Okay. Did you have an appraisal done on your property?
When do you mean?
Well, for the value as of January 1st, 2019.
No, sir. I don't hear anything there.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Love, you're entitled to redirect testimony. So anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I think with my limited capabilities of knowing, you know, the whole process, I've done about as well as I know to do. But I thank you for hearing me.
All right. So there's no further evidence from you, Mr. Love. So we then go to the county to hear from the county, Mr. Batten.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We'll call Mr. Michael Idle.
Mr. Idle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Idle, just please state your name and position with the county.
Michael Idle, I'm on Chief Appraisal.
Can you all hear that okay?
Mr. Idle's kind of garbled.
Yes. Are y'all in the same room, Mr. Batten?
Yes, sir, but I think I can correct that.
Okay.
If you'll give me just 1 minute.
All right. Yours is fine. His is babbling.
How's that? Any better?
All right. Say a couple of words, Mr. Idle is here.
Is that any better?
It's a little better, I think. Do you have your own microphone?
I did. Let me mute mine and maybe you speak to hear.
Okay, why don't you try that? If you're right there, use his microphone and see if it's better, and mute yours.
Okay, how's that?
That's it better?
That's better.
Okay, let's go ahead, Mr. Batten. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Idle, you're familiar with the subject property?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to walk us through the county's exhibit booklet. On the first page, we've got a picture of the subject property, correct?
Yes.
And the lake is not in the background. So this was after the hurricane? Okay. Exhibit 2 is pictures of the subject property and the aerial of its location.
Correct.
Exhibit 5s are comparables you use to reach the value as of January 1st, 2019.
Yes.
And were these values before or after January 1st, 2019?
Before.
Okay, and then counties exhibit 6. These are the comparables we use for the value of the January 1st, 2019.
Yes.
And these are predominantly lakefront.
Yeah, they're all.
Okay, and then exhibit 7, which starts off with the heading on the first page of sales report. These are sales after January 1st, 2019, correct?
Correct.
Did you use these sales in formulating your opinion of Mr. Love's property?
No, sir.
What is the purpose of these sales?
To show that we made the correct decision on not adjusting for the lake being dry. We followed the sales trends to see if we had made the right or wrong decisions by not putting condition factors on the lake. And these sales we're showing our trending. I mean, our ratio is only at 93%. So it's
Excuse me, Mr. Idle. Mr. Idle?
95%, 95%. So the
Mr. Idle?
properties actually increased almost 5%.
He must have his speaker cut off. Mr. Batten, can you get Mr. Idle to pause a minute?
Sir.
Sure.
Okay.
Right. Hold on.
Mr. Peasley, do you have a question?
Yeah, just-
Mr.
Wait a minute.
Beasley's mic is not on.
Mr.
I have concerns as to whether, Ms. Rice, whether you are able to get all this. I can't hear what he's saying. It's very garbled. And if I can't hear it, my suspicion is you can't hear it, in which case we don't have a record. That's my concern.
Can you,
I
Ms.
believe
Rice,
I'm making him out. But if he could slow down, it would be even better.
We've
All right, he's
changed
moved
to
over.
one computer. Maybe this will help.
let's try that and see. He's moved over to where Mr. Batten is. We've been able to hear Mr. Batten fine, so let's see if we can hear Mr. Idle. Mr. Idle, can you say a couple words and see if it's better?
Are we better now?
Oh, much better, I think. Ms. Rice, can you hear that better?
Yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
all right, let's try that. Thank you.
Okay. If I could recap what I believe you said briefly. Nothing in Exhibit 7 was used to reach the value of January 1st, 2019 for Mr. Love's property, correct?
Correct. We didn't have the data prior to 19. So
Right. And the county made the decision not to discount the values for the lake being dry because historically, when the lake was dry before, it did not affect value.
Correct.
And you knew the lake was coming back.
Correct.
Okay. So the purpose of the sales in Exhibit 7 were after the fact.
Correct.
And were used to, in your opinion, the lake being dry did not have an effect on the sales.
Correct. We've been tracking those to verify that we made the right decision by not conditioning the lake lots. We've been tracking the new sales. And as you can see, the ones that were presented here are through March 9th of 2020. And we're only at 95% of value for these three sales, a median value. So that tells us that the lake property actually increased by 5%. So the demand was still there and it was still rising. The folks knew the lake was coming back. So it has not affected the sales.
All right.
Can you briefly discuss how the county did reach the value of $302,290 for Mr. Love's property using the comparables you did use?
Yes. It's just a basic sales comparable approach, which is what we use to support all of our values for residential properties. We're on exhibit 4. And this is the data we had at the time to do the revaluation. The data we're in exhibit 7 was past the time. We're using that for trending data only to see if we made the right decision. But these are the best comparables that were available at the time for his valuation. And as you can see, it's got a median grid of $310,800. So it supported his value at the time of our revaluation of January 1, 2019.
Were any adjustments made for your first comp?
Yes.
What were they?
There was an age adjustment made, and there was a square foot heating adjustment made. Bathroom adjustment was made. Garage square footage adjustment was made. And there was adjustments made for buildings and extra features.
And adjustments made for the second comp as well?
Yes. They were made, there was an adjustment made for comp 2. There was an age adjustment made for comp 2. There was a heated area adjustment made for comp 2. Bathroom adjustment made for comp 2. Any difference in the elements, the adjustments were made. The garage adjustment was made and the outbuilding adjustment was made.
So in your opinion, appropriate adjustments were made to all of the comps 1 through 4 in order to help you reach the value? And what's the indicated value of Mr. Love's property based on these comps?
The indicated value is $310,800 based on these comps.
Okay. And these properties were located on the lake?
Yes, sir.
But they were in fact sales prior to the lake being dry.
Right.
Okay. Exhibit 4 also includes photographs, and these are photographs of the properties you use, which you found to be comparable.
Yes, sir.
All right, you admit the lake's empty.
Yes, sir.
You admit it doesn't look that nice.
Correct.
Did you take the empty lake into account in reaching your value of January 1st, 2019?
We did, but we chose not to do it.
Okay. And that is based on your earlier testimony as to Exhibit 7?
Yes, because, well, that and the fact that the lake has been dry before, passed due to sinkholes, and it did not affect values at that time because we knew the lake would be refilled. And it's the same situation this time. The lake was being refilled, so the current buyers are not taking the dry lake into effect. As far as our numbers are concerned, it's not showing that it's hurting it. It's actually, the values are still increasing.
Have you done another sales report since the one in the booklet?
I've done a current one.
All right, did that change your opinion at all?
No, sir.
Why not?
Because they've actually gone up more.
All right, and these properties used in Exhibit 7 were marketed as lakefront?
Yes, sir.
And are in fact lakefront?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Love had some questions as to adjustments for, I believe, eyes or one with a lot, and then had questions as to the square footage being lower than his for these three properties. Can you please address that?
The square footage adjustments are basically based on quality of construction, and are based on actual year builds. He's not taking into account any depreciated numbers. Your comps are listed at 1967, 1998, and 1972. He's in a 2015 house. Homes do depreciate, so he's not taking into account when he's basing that straight across the board square foot price number. He's not taking any depreciation or any adjustments into account for these houses.
All right, and what about the lot value?
The lot values, there was one that he says is 2 lots, but when you build a house in the middle of 2 lots, it's excess land. It's not a buildable lot, so we're not going to value it as such. So he's trying to reduce half price of a value that we've already cut in half by 50% because it's excess land. It's not a buildable lot. The legal description describes it as 2 lots, but we've taken that into consideration when we did our adjustments.
Okay, and what is your opinion of the fair market value of Mr. Love's property as of January 1st, 2019?
$302,290.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, that's
Okay.
all for
All right, Mr. Love, you can cross-examine Mr. Idle. You're muted, Mr. Love.
Dan, can you hear me?
We
Can
can
you
hear
hear
you
me
now.
now?
Yes.
Okay. I would first like to address the last issue he brought up about the size of the lot and that making no difference. So I would have to ask Mr. Idle, if someone's sitting in the middle of a half acre or in the middle of 10 acres, you're going to tell me that that property value's the same? I mean, all I'm saying is let's compare apple to apple. I didn't say, you know, you've got a lot twice the size of mine. You know, you've got over an acre on that lot. There's 2 lots. And I'm saying just put it back to where you know, put mine at $70,000 on 1 lot. So, you know, the value of that lot is a lot different than what the value of mine would be. Also, in work that I have sent you guys, we did not bring it. It is in
Mr.
my
Chairman, if we
papers.
could please address the first question.
Well,
Okay.
Mr. Love, you need to ask Mr. Idle the questions, and needs to be in the form of a question. You can have an opportunity later on to offer additional information if you have it. Ask him a question regarding his testimony. Or
Okay,
anything
well,
else that's relevant.
okay, on the first part is about the size of the lot. I mean, do you not agree that you have this lot at $49,000, listed as $49,000 more than my lot?
Which comparable are we discussing here? Which one are we talking about?
The one with 2 lots, under your Exhibit 7, where you have the 3 houses listed, the one that's sold for $335,000, and it says it's 2 lots with a land value of $119,000.
He's saying it.
Like this. In my head. It's the double lot. We've got it valued at $119,000.
Correct. So that's $49,000 more than the value of my single lot, correct? Of $70,000. You have me on there at $70,000.
Okay.
But that $49,000 added into the price per square foot. So, you know, that made that house valued at $149 a square foot, whereas if you put it on 1 lot like mine, you're going to have a
Mr.
value
Love,
of
you need to-
$127.
Mr. Love, you need to ask him a question, and then you'll have.
Well, I asked him if he felt that
opportunity to
value
do-
was the same. Yeah, if that value, you know, the value of the lot's the same, then, I mean, does that not add to a lot to the square footage value or the value you placed on that house is a lot higher because there's almost $50,000 more on the lot. Is that not correct?
Yes, that value is on that land is 119 on that particular comparable.
And my comparable is 70,000, right?
Correct. You're on single lot, I guess. Yeah.
Right. So that is not, you know, land-wise comparing apples to apples, correct?
Yes, it is. Once the adjustments were made.
Okay.
Mr. Idle, can you kind of clarify how the adjustment was made for the land to see if it'll help understand that?
You're talking about for the comparable, the comparable, number one, the one we got back, the two lots at 119. He wants to know how we got the 119?
How you used a comparable and how you adjusted it for the comparable.
Okay, typically, it's not just his, but all of them. If you've got a house, even if it's on one lot or two, which we're not talking about acreages here, we're talking about building lots. If you build your house in the middle of those two lots, the value is not full value for those two lots. It won't, like a typical lot out there is $70,000 on the lake. That's what we determined, okay? So that means that if that lot was, say the house on that lot was setting to one side, then the value would be two full lots, 70,000 each, it'd be $140,000. But since that house encroached on that other lot, then we reduce it down, and that condition factor has reduced that one down to 119. Because it's not two buildable lots anymore, it's just a larger lot. So we gave that guy more money for that.
I understand that, Mr. Idle, but still we're at a lot that's $50,000 more than mine. I understand you've reduced the price. In other words, it's not 70 and 70 for 140. You know, you just said 70 plus 49. That I definitely agree with, understand. But the issue is it's still a much bigger lot, and that lot figures into that, the price of that lot figures into the square footage of the house. So you've got a $50,000 more expensive lot there than you do for me, which figures into your square footage of the house.
Mr. Love, I believe we've covered that from your perspective, so we have your contention there on that.
All right. Also back on, I think, you know, you guys have been using the fact of, you know, those houses were built in the 60s and 70s. If we go back to Exhibit 5, Exhibit 4 you have, where you have the pictures showing cops 1, 2, 3, and 4. I mean, yeah, my house was built in 2015. These houses were in 2008, 2011, 2015, and I believe 2018. No, 1995, I'm sorry. So most of these are fairly relatively new houses. But again, the prices prior to when we still had a lake, right?
Your valuation is as of January 1, 2020, or 2019, I'm sorry. So
right,
yeah.
but I'm saying in your Exhibit 4, though, these were when we still had a lake. Those prices of those houses when they sold was when we still had a lake, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And let's see, commission considered to, I had one. Oh, also, whenever I first went out and I made my appeal to the county and I went out before the Board of Adjustments, I believe it was called, whatever, review, there was someone there, it may have been you, I'm not sure who, and it was talked about that the no consideration was really being made. I'm going to, that no consideration was going to be made because of the lake was coming back and felt it was coming back fairly soon. Now, this has been 2 years ago. And you've made the comment about, no, you know, the lake is coming back, but is that not true before, whenever the lake went away with the sinkhole, that it came back in about a year?
I don't have that data in front of me, sir.
Well, I mean, it in fact, whenever the sinkholes came, the lake, that was repaired and the lake was back in roughly a year. Here, we're a minimum of not having a lake for 5 to 6 years. So that's a lot different than saying the lake's going to be back in roughly a year. Would you not agree?
No, the construction on the lake begins May of next year, sir, so it won't be 5 years.
They said begins, but we've been told we won't have water for at least another 3 to 4 years because they're going to have to rebuild all the dams, not just one.
Okay. The sales we're pulling out the cart. Oh, I'm sorry. The current sales we're pulling up now are not showing any negative values on the lake, by the lake being dry. They're still going up.
Mr. Chairman, that's at least, I mean, if we have a recap at the end, fine, but that's all the questions I have for them.
Okay, you'll have a chance to, final argument. Mr. Batten, any redirect?
No, sir.
Any further evidence from the county?
No, sir. Thank you.
Let me just ask, well, let's see. Any other commissioners have any questions? Okay.
Mr. Idle, this is Commissioner Guest. In the neighborhood where Mr. Love's home is, you've got some properties that are lakefront. You have those lots valued at $70,000 per buildable lot, I believe you've testified. Are there also properties that are not lakefront in that community? And if there are, what are the values of those lots?
Do not have that data in front of me, sir. It was, when we run our ratios, we're running them on like kind properties, lake to lake, inland to inland, that kind of stuff. So that was not, I don't have that data.
Okay. You said that the lake previously had been dry, I believe, due to a sinkhole or sinkholes. And
Yes.
that, and those sinkholes were repaired and the lake came back and that didn't impact the property value. This time we have a dam that was destroyed or damaged that drained the lake?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you indicated that you believe they're going to start reconstruction in May of 2021?
Yes, sir. We have a construction schedule from the town of Bowling Spring Lakes, and they've got it all showing exactly when it's actually in process now, has been for a while, but it's showing the actual construction to begin May 21 on the dams.
When a property has a event that impacts the value, you're allowed, I would think, to reduce the value. And then if it has a further change in the property that would cause an increase in value, are you allowed to subsequently, before a revaluation, increase the value? So in other words, my question is, if the property was impacted because the lake is no longer there, and that happened before the revaluation date of January 1st, 2019, because it happened in September of 2018, and you did not make a downward adjustment on the value of the property because of the lake being dry. If you were to make a downward adjustment because of the lake being dry, and then after the dam is rebuilt and the lake is refilled, could you then make an upward adjustment when the lake is back?
If we had chosen to put a condition factor on those lots,
Sir, I can answer that legally. We would not be allowed to make an upward adjustment because the value was established as of January 1st, 2019. So we couldn't add or remove the condition.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Idle, on Exhibit 4, which is the subject's property record card.
I think it's 3, probably. It's hard to.
I'm sorry, it is 3. My mistake. You, Mr. Guest asked you about other properties around the neighborhood that are not on the lake. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, you have land information.
yes, sir.
Highest and best use. What would be in that block for those other lots that are not on the lake?
It would say just single family residential.
It would say what?
SFR for single family residential.
And would it be right to assume that those lots would be valued less than these?
Yes.
How much less, do you know? And the reason I ask that question is the whole obvious thing here. If everything is 1/1/19 and what was there 1/1/19, there was no lake there. And along the same lines as Mr. Guest was leading to, why couldn't you classify those SFR? Because they're not, I mean, it's clear they're not waterfront on 1/1/19, are they?
They're not, but the sales are showing them still selling higher. We go by,
But if
we start from the sales of the properties that are in the area and what kind of properties they are. Even though the lake was dry, the sales are still showing them with a significant increase in value. People saw the future. You know, they knew the lake was coming back, so it did not affect the values.
Okay.
Any other questions? So I think I understand you, but for clarification, Mr. Adler, what you're saying is you looked at the condition of the property on January 1/19, and there was no lake there, but you determined the fact that there was no lake there when there had been one prior to September of that year, that had no impact on the value of the land. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, we'll hear some closing arguments now. Mr. Love, you can go first or last, or I guess maybe first and last, but do you have any final comments you would like to add?
Well, yes, sir. Am I off mute? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We hear you.
Okay. I know in the age, from what Mr. Idle has said, that they have taken age of houses in consideration when valuing my house. And I also know that on the property card that you guys were just showing a while ago, they have the depreciated value of my house at 222, just the house, just the building, 223,000, I believe it is, plus. And that the pavement, my driveway is worth like 3,600. So altogether, it was going to be like 226,000. In the papers you have, Mr. Chairman, what I sent in and what I sent to them, I built this house total, including all of that. I sent my signed contract from my builder for $186,000. So my depreciated value has gone from $186,000 up to $226,000. Just the building. We're talking the building. I'm not even talking about the land. So I'd just like for y'all to take that into consideration. I would also like to respectfully dispute the idea of us having a lake back like in another year, because this process, I've been following it, the meetings out here at the town hall, as well as through the papers and everything. Yes, they are going to start in April or May of next year, which the main dam is going to take eight months to a year to complete. Then they've got to tear out 3 other dams to redo those, and they have got to be cured before water can start backing up, before they close these dams to allow water to start coming in. So these meetings have told us that we will not have a lake back for anywhere from 3 to 4 more years. Yeah, the repairs are going to start by having a lake 3 to 4 more years, which means we will be without a lake between 5 and 6 years, not the roughly 1 year when the sinkhole came around. And finally, I just ask that the board please just use logic, look at the picture, and ask yourself, would you pay the same for, a lot with that ugly picture out behind it as you would for a beautiful lake? It defies logic to me, and I just appreciate your consideration, and will respect your decision. So that's That's all I have. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Batten?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. As to how the county reached the value as of January 1st, 2019, only the properties in Exhibit 4 were used as comparable in order to reach that value, comps 1, 2, 3, and 4, as being the most comparable to Mr. Love's. And that's how we reached the value of, well, according to that, it would be 310, but county's value is 302,290. Once you look at that, the county said, here's the value of January 1st, 2019. The lake is gone. It is ugly. We recognize that the people living there don't have a lake, and they don't have access to a lake. It said their property will have waterfront access. While it doesn't have it currently, it will. The property down the street will never have water, well, will not have waterfront access. In 10 years, there won't be a lake there. But and whenever, there will be a lake at Mr. Love's property. And that, quite frankly, has value. And those lots are, comparing the two, are not apples to apples, regardless of how it looked January 1st, 2019. Recognizing this, the county went through and continued to run the sales reports, which you have in Exhibit 7. Now, this report was not run for the purposes of establishing Mr. Love's value. The sole purpose of this report was to show values were not decreasing on the lakefront properties. And in fact, the values have gone up. If the county, based on Mr. Idle's testimony, were to value Mr. Love's property as of January 1st, 2020, he would have an even higher value because the values have continued to actually increase for these lots that actually front the lake. While it's an empty lake, it will still be a lake. I can't think the county has clearly established that had the lake been there, Mr. Love would have had the value of 302,290. I don't think that's been disputed. The only dispute is the value the lake, the absence of the lake would affect the value. And I believe the county has established that, in fact, there is no impact on the value because of the absence of the lake. Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else, any commission? Okay. Thank y'all very much. We're going to go into executive session and we'll try to reach a decision, and we'll be back with you when we do. All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, do we sign off now?
No, sir. You stay on, and eventually they'll come back in the room.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if this was like a several-hour thing. I didn't know. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, let's see. Ms. Wright, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Mr. Batten, can you hear me? He's nodding yes. Mr. Love, we don't see you, but can you unmute and tell us if you can hear me? And also, if you want to be seen, see if you can get your video on.
I can hear you. Do you hear me okay? There we
We
go.
hear you now, yes, sir. We don't see you, but we hear you, so that's sufficient for our purposes. So the commission has deliberated, and based upon the evidence presented and the testimony of the witnesses, the county has voted, the commission has voted 4-1 to uphold the county's valuation. So we will get an opinion out sometime usually around 30 days or so. So we appreciate everyone's participation. These issues are always sometimes tough. Well, that's redundant. Are sometimes tough for us to have to deal with, and we appreciate your arguments, Mr. Love, and the evidence you presented. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough to prevail in this instance. So we appreciate very much y'all participating, and we'll adjourn this case, and we will then go to our Mecklenburg case. The motion to dismiss, I believe it's Mr. Hill.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Love.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Batten. It'll take us a minute or two to get the other people on. Okay, I see Mr. Adden and his people there. I see Mr. Paul. You can unmute. And I believe we have a Mr. Oh, no. We have Mr. Jimmy Hill, I believe. Mr. Hill, can you unmute and see if we can hear you?
Yes, sir, I've unmuted.
And Mr. William Hill, can you hear us? And if you will, unmute. Mr. William Hill, can you hear me? Now, can you hear me now? Mr. William Hill, can you hear me? Mr. William Hill? Are you hearing us? We're not hearing any response from Mr. William Hill. Mr. Falk, do you have any information? Shows he's unmuted.
He's unmuted. Him here on the staff room, we're going to send him a text to see if he's having some other kind of difficulty, but it looks like he's at least present. I think we can move ahead.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, says Cynthia.
Yes, Ms. Rice?
We have not sworn either of them as witnesses.
Okay, that's a good point. Thank you for keeping me straight. Okay. All right, Mr. Hill, if you will unmute, and Mr. Falk, it appears we're getting some feedback. Are y'all in the same room, you said?
We are in the same room, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I think we're getting the feedback because y'all are fairly close to each other. If y'all can, both of you use the same mic and shut the other one down, or move to another room, probably.
We've moved
I
away
think
from
it's
each
picking
other.
up mine.
Is that helped? So there's still the feedback.
Okay. So we just wanted to use yours.
Yeah, you better cut his off. It's,
Okay, Jimmy Hills is off. Is that better now?
yes, sir. Sure is.
Mr. Falk, for future reference, I don't know how often you do this in your practice, but if you get a headset with the microphone, that eliminates an awful lot of that. So just a practice tip.
Okay, thank you. Heads up.
Thanks. Yes, Mr. Pell. Mr. Falk, the question is whether or not Mr. Hill and either of Mr. Hills will be testifying. We're here on the motion to dismiss, so is there going to be testimony or from them?
I believe based on what Mr. Adden represented earlier, that there's not going to be dispute of what's been alleged in the appeal. There may be some necessity for testimony beyond the statements that are in that email from Jimmy Hill.
All right, well, let's go ahead and swear him.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and swear Jimmy Hill. And we'll have to go off the record, Ms. Bendette, to shut down the record for a minute. All right, we're back recording now, so everything is proper, I think. So, Mr. Adden, the county has filed this motion. We're dealing with the appeal of L.E. Hill, 19 Property Tax Commission 590 from Mecklenburg County, and you filed a motion to dismiss.
Yes, Your Honor. Filed the motion to dismiss on May 7th of 2020. The grounds for the motion is, as you know, for the Property Tax Commission to hear an appeal, the taxpayer has to first timely appeal to the local Board of Equalization and Review, and the local Board of Equalization and Review then enters a decision regarding the value of the property. Mr. Hill did not timely appeal to the local Board of Equalization and Review, and for that reason, we're requesting that the appeal to the Property Tax Commission be dismissed. The motion to dismiss that we filed has been verified by Calvin Johnson, the appeals coordinator. The facts really are not in dispute. Mecklenburg County did its general revaluation as of January 1, 2019. This motion involves two tax parcels, county parcels 111-201-07A and 111-201-07B. Both of these parcels are vacant land located on Albemarle Road in Charlotte. The market value of the A parcel, the assessed value for the A parcel was $464,300. The market value for the B parcel was $1,815,500. We're talking about large tracts of vacant land on Albemarle Road in a rapid near I believe it's near I-485 prime area for development. The county sent notices of these values to Mr. Hill, who's the owner of the property, on January 23rd, 2019. Those notices are attached as exhibit number 1 to my motion to dismiss. And they set forth the values and they provide the taxpayer with the opportunity to request an informal review or to request a formal appeal to the Board of Equalization and Review prior to May 20th, 2019, which was going to be the adjournment date. Mr. Hill did not do either. He did not request an informal review. He did not request a formal appeal prior to the adjournment date. County exhibit number 2 is an affidavit from the Charlotte Observer of publication of the notice that the adjournment date of the local Board of Equalization and Review was May the 20th, 2018. 2019. So under the statute, any appeal of the value had to be presented to the board prior to the May 20th adjournment date. On October 7th, 2019, so we got several months later, Mr. Hill attempted to appeal to the Board of Equalization and Review. He did so by submitting an email to the county appeals website, an email from Jimmy Hill, who represented himself as power of attorney for Mr. L.E. Hill, and we don't dispute that. And Mr. Jimmy Hill explained in his email that, I'm quoting, "I am told that there was a single notice sent out to property owners at the first of the year. Mr. L.E. Hill is a dementia patient and likely discarded the notice, not being aware of what it was." And so the reason he did not timely appeal was because they contend that Mr. Hill was not aware of the significance of the notices that he received, and I guess not aware of the adjournment date. Nevertheless, the statute requires a hearing before the Board of Equalization and Review. I would point out that under the statute, under the order of previous hearings before the property tax appeal on this issue, the board, the PTC will grant such motions. If you don't file it on time, you don't file it on time. The Machinery Act is specific. If for some reason the Property Tax Commission was persuaded that the local board should hear this, then your remedy if you were to not deny my motion to dismiss, would be to remand the case to the local Board of Equalization and Review. Issues of value are not before the commission at this time. Those issues of value first have to go to the local BER. So I think that the statute requires a timely appeal to the local Board of Equalization and Review. What did not happen in this case, and really the taxpayer's remedy would be to appeal the next year. But if you miss that first date, there's nothing to prevent you from appealing the next year and contesting the value for 2020 and have a hearing. But contesting the value for 2019 is simply too late. So I'd ask that the commission grant our motion to dismiss. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Adden. Mr. Falk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the commission.
Let me ask
Mr.
you,
Adams,
I don't see that let me ask you, Mr. Falk, you didn't file anything with the commission, did you?
No, sir. We've not a formal written response.
Okay.
We're there to argue against the pending motion to dismiss based on the time of this issue. Are we getting feedback still?
No, you're okay. I just didn't see anything in the file. I wanted to be sure. Sometimes we don't.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. We did not file anything. Again, we're here to request of the commission that some other facts and some equities be considered on behalf of the taxpayer. Mr. Adden stated, Mr. Hill, and when I say Mr. Hill, this is the taxpayer. And of course, as I think the commission's come to understand, Mr. Jimmy Hill and Mr. William Hill are the taxpayer's son. Taxpayer's name is Gene Hill, and they have durable power of attorney for their father. Gene Hill, the taxpayer, was determined to have dementia and diagnosed in early part of 2012. He does live at home and requires pretty regular care, and both of which Mr. Billy Hill and Mr. Jimmy Hill both help out and participate in their father's care. And around the same time that this occurred, there was some other things that were experienced with regard to some of their dad's kind of daily doings. One of the things that Mr. Gene really enjoyed doing on a daily basis was going to get his own mail it was something he looked forward to. It got him out of the house for a few minutes, let him stretch his legs. And so it was something that, of course, his sons appreciated that he wanted to do. They did move his mailbox away from a pretty busy Albemarle Road to ensure that doing so didn't put him at great risk. But that was a daily activity that he really enjoyed, and they certainly didn't want to take away from him in the name of having some continued independence and some things that, again, that kind of broke up his day. But they did note that there was some things that were potentially going missing, and some of this might not have predated this, but been kind of contemporaneous with the timing of this notice in the early part of 2019. And they were noticing that Mr. Hill would place things in bizarre places, like in books. Checks were found in his dictionary and other places. And the extent of his dementia, it advanced enough to where he was, he was not going to remember what he had done even just seconds prior. And so it was pretty much impossible for them to really keep an eye on what he was doing. Throughout a day, they were checking on him for sure, helping him along with things, and taking care of caring for him. But it was a situation where they just couldn't know every single thing that he might have done. And when he went to get his mail, they have discovered that he would have a tendency to discard it, to obviously not have the cognitive ability to appreciate even what it was, but that he would place it in places that it would then not get to their attention to be able to properly respond it to. And we're talking about a situation of advanced dementia, where there's a lack of remembrance and a deficiency in judgment, where they just have a real good faith belief that's what took place in this situation. And but for that having occurred, it's also worth knowing that Jimmy Hill lives in Stanley County, which is, Mr. Hill living in Mecklenburg County, and they don't take the Charlotte Observer, which that's where the publication was placed. Upon the discovery of the potential for this being the scenario, of course, there was, Mr. Hill immediately reached out, communicated with the local board of equalization to let them know that that's very likely what has occurred. We do believe that there is that we have some real meritorious arguments on the merits, on the underlying valuation issues. Otherwise, we wouldn't be making this procedural argument at this point. But we're just asking for some grace and some mercy from the commission in light of a situation where, two people were trying to do right by Dad, certainly diligent and active in his daily care, but also understanding that, again, they wanted to allow him to have some freedom and some independence to do some things that he enjoyed doing. And it's, again, very likely that he put that envelope somewhere where they weren't been able to discover it and weren't aware of the deadlines that it outlined. Again, we think it's a legitimate, extenuating set of circumstances that are medically supportable. Mr. William Hill and Mr. Jimmy Hill are coming to the board with the utmost good faith and request that they just have an opportunity to present their argument on the merits, that the commission view this as, just as we've articulated it to be, a real medical-based extenuating circumstance where the hardship of which falling 100% on the back of taxpayer, we would argue is just an unfair placement of the burden. And again, to give us an opportunity to make our arguments on the 2019 valuation. It's worth mentioning to the commission that there's already been an appeal filed for 2020. But we'd obviously like the opportunity to argue based on the 2019 revaluation and think that these circumstances would merit a remanding to the Mecklenburg County Local Board to give us that opportunity. And we appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Falk. Mr. Falk, Mr. Adden, sure, Mr. Peasley has a question.
What is the date of the power of attorney?
I've got it here and I can submit it, but it was executed on, and this is a certified copy. It was executed on the 17th day of September, 2013.
Thank you.
And I've got a book and page reference. It is recorded. So if that needs to be provided, that can be.
Mr. Adden, further comments? Was any commissioner have a question beforehand? Mr. Adden, anything else you want to add?
My only comment would be that there's nothing on record changing the address from the taxpayer's address to the address for the power of attorney. The county's records indicate that they sent the notice to the correct address. And that's all I'd add.
All right. Questions, Mr. Guest?
Mr. Falk, what has been done now to prevent this from occurring in the future?
Well, Mr. Hill has corresponded when I say Mr. Hill, Mr. Jimmy Hill has corresponded at considerable length with the local Mecklenburg County Board of Equalization, has made them aware of the situation. And as far as other remedial, both Jimmy and William Hill are just being much more, even much more watchful over Dad's day-to-day activities. They're just being a little bit more circumspect over, he may get from the mailbox and just making it appreciating that this may have some likelihood of recurring. They're just being much more, again, kind of diligent and watchful over on a more consistent day-to-day basis.
Okay, so they have not changed the mailing address or the property tax records from the homeowner's address to the power of attorney address, even currently. Is that correct?
Well, William Hill does live next door to Gene Hill, taxpayer. And so what William Hill has done is upon the discovery of this likely scenario, and obviously its consequences, again, it has been the impetus for him acting with more diligence and being, again, more watchful over Dad on a day-to-day basis, especially as it pertains to gathering mail.
Okay, and Mr. William Hill is a co-power of attorney?
That is correct. William Hill and Jimmy Hill have coextensive authority as powers of attorney, yes.
Okay, and Mr. William Hill, you stated, lives next door to his father. And Mr. William Hill owns real estate, real property next door to his father. Would that be correct?
Yes.
And Mr. William Hill then would have also received a notice of revaluation on Mr. William Hill's property, and he also would have received the notice of deadlines for appeal filing. Would that be an adequate statement?
To the extent that he is a citizen of Mecklenburg County, owns property, yes, that would be an accurate statement, that he would have been, he was a citizen that was subject to the same revaluation, yes.
Thank
you. Further questions? Okay, Mr. Falk, anything else before we go into executive session and deliberate on the motion filed by Mecklenburg County?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the commission, I don't believe there's any further comments. I'm happy to answer any questions or clarify any points, but at this time, I think that'll be our argument.
Okay, thank you very much. Nothing being further, then we'll go into executive session, and when we reach a decision, we'll be back with you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, can everyone hear me now? Mr. Falk, can you hear me? Mr. Ed? No. How about Ms. Rice?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, all right, good. There's Ms. Rice, okay. We didn't have a box for you at the present time, but now we've got one for everybody. Okay, the commissioners deliberated on the county's motion to dismiss, and unfortunately, Mr. Falk, we have voted for, in your case, to allow the county's motion. It was late, and we have to go by our precedent and the statutes and equity. Sometimes you may have equity on your side, but we don't have the opportunity to use equity if we thought it was justified. But I'm sure you probably counsel both Mr. Hills that maybe they want to get their father's mail delivered to them and to keep them from this happening again. And I understand you have appealed for 2020, which you can do, and I assume you've either changed that address or found a way to hopefully keep this from happening again. Mr. Adden, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't believe they have appealed for 2020. However, we would not have any issue. The adjournment date for 2020 was May the 4th of 2020. My motion to dismiss was filed after that adjournment date on May 7th. We do not have a problem if the Property Tax Commission includes in its order granting the motion to dismiss that the Property Tax Commission instructs the county to give them 30 days from today to file appeals for 2020 due to the circumstances. So we would be okay with it, even though a 2020 appeal is late. Since we did not file our motion to dismiss until after the adjournment date, we would be comfortable with your ordering us to give them 30 days to file a 2020 appeal.
Mr. Adden, it's been pointed out by our counsel, I'm not sure that we have the authority to do that, but I suspect you have the authority not to file a motion for 2020 if you're so inclined, and it could be handled that way, I believe.
We understand. Okay, Your Honor. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Falk, if you would get your appeals filed for 2020, the county won't move to dismiss them. We'll accept them as timely.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, and we're going to recess for lunch, Mr. Adden, and I understand Mrs. Todd is online. We're going to attempt to come back at 12:30, so we'll be back for hearing shortly at 12:30 or hopefully shortly thereafter. Getting lunch here is complicated now because several places around have closed down and also the others have limitations. But let's plan on trying to be back here virtually at 12:30. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you were smarter. You could have brought all that. Okay, Ms. Todd, I think you said yes, okay?
Yes, I did.
So everybody can hear us, all right? So we're gonna, go back into session and, we have, this case, is appeal of Julia L. Todd, 19 Property Tax Commission, 475 from Mecklenburg County for the tax year 2019. So I think Mr. Adden is representing Mecklenburg County, and Mrs. Todd, I think you do not have an attorney, you're representing yourself. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, everybody's been sworn, I think, that was going to testify. So, we can move right into, opening statements. Ms. Todd, you can make an opening statement as to your, contentions of what your evidence will show. And then Mr. Adden will have an opportunity to have an opening statement from the county's perspective. And then we'll hear from you, Ms. Todd, as to your evidence after the county has a chance to have an opening statement. Ms. Todd, opening statement.
Are we doing, I have two parcels. Are we doing them?
We'll take them both together. We'll try to, I guess, go parcel number one and parcel number two for discussion purposes, but for the hearing, we're doing both of them together.
Right, okay. So the first one would be the, and the other one would be the lot next 17,905. Our argument is the value of the property, the land is too high on both of the parcels. Based on other property values I have found nearby on the lake.
Am I correct? Let's see if we can get in the record. I'm looking at the statement of the case that we have, and it says that as to the first parcel, you're contending the value should be 175,000, and the county has 300,000.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the lot next door. Right.
And then parcel number two, we have that, your, contention as to value is 650,000. And the county's appraisal is 791,000. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so I don't need to go into all my evidence and stuff now?
No, well, you just tell us your main contention and then you can do your evidence.
Okay, for parcel number one, the vacant lot, our contention is that it's not worth the 300 because it's a very steep lot. It has a 12 to 15 foot vertical drop once you get down to the lake, and it's pretty steep. You have to use it. We have a rope tied to the tree to pull ourselves up the hill. It's that steep. And other lots are valued 300 that are nice and flat with nice gentle beaches, and they're just not the same. And there needs to be differences in the lot quality of the lots in these values, instead of just labeling all lakefront properties one price and all point-like properties one price, with very slight differences. Let me say at this point, and I know that this is based on January 1st, 2019, but we did combine these two parcels in March of 2019. So whatever we find out today, we do plan to appeal that new value, which we just got the other day because they never recorded it until about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So anyway, it's not a buildable lot, even at 219, because we had encroached over on it a good bit with our driveways and retaining walls and stuff. And it is not on city water. Neither one of these are on city water. The street has city water, but they did not give us the option to join. There's a new development on our street, which is about 2/10 of a mile long, with 21 houses on it, counting ours. Cheaper houses, and we feel that the whole situation has made our property less valuable. The construction's been going on for 6 years, and it's just a nightmare. The property number 2, which is where our house sits, and it's basically the same thing. It is a point lot, and we feel like it's valued too high based on other point lots in the area. Because of the 50-foot non-encroachment line that we have to follow, the trees pretty much block most of our views. We also have, in the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years, the boaters have started parking in front of our lot on the weekends particularly, and it's getting worse and worse to the point that we can hardly go outside and enjoy our own property because there's, at any given weekend, there could be 12 to 15 boats just, 20 feet from our property with screaming kids, barking dogs, loud music. They're all tied together. They're just having a big party. So, it's taken away from our property. No one seems to be monitoring it. I can't even let my dog out without a leash now because they want to call out to him and then he ends up swimming out to him, and it's just a pain. But basically, the differences in the similar lots are not, I don't see how they're justifying the prices.
All right, anything else in your opening statement? Okay, Mr. Adden, opening statement on behalf of Mecklenburg County.
Yes, as set forth in the pretrial order, the parcel numbers and the values are set forth in that. I would make a correction that the value of the house and lot, and the one that you're referring to as number 2, is $797,000. Mr. Chairman, I believe you said 791. It's 797. So the county contends the value of the house and lot, which we're talking about, number 2, is $797,000, and the value of the vacant lot, which we're referring to as number 1, is $300,000. And I would submit to you that the issue determined is whether there's competent material and substantial evidence presented by the taxpayer showing the county used an arbitrary or illegal method of valuation of the subject properties, and if so, does the assessment substantially exceed the true value and money of the property? That is the issue, and we will leave our opening at that.
All right, at this time, Mr. Todd, you can present your evidence, anything that you'd like to, for us to consider. You have submitted some exhibits. Let me ask, are there any objections to any of the exhibits that have been submitted by either party? Mr. Adden, do you have any objections to the exhibits of Ms. Todd?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Todd, do you have any objection to any of the exhibits of Mecklenburg County is submitted?
No.
Okay, so we'll deem all the exhibits admitted. Okay, Ms. Todd, you can present your evidence now.
Okay. Looking over the 4 comps that the county provided, these are, number 1 comp is, of course, it's a main channel lot. The house is all.
Can you help us to identify where you're referring to in the county's exhibits, so we all get the same place?
Okay, let me find it. The number.
You said counties, yeah.
It's exhibit 13, I believe.
Okay, give us a second to get there. This is the comps, and the exhibit 13, the first one's identified as comp 1. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
All right, everybody. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I know that he just had to pull recent sales, but I mean, this of course is on the main channel with unbelievable views in any direction. And the house is comparable in size of square footage. It's all on one level, where ours is 2 level with, one floor with a basement, below grade basement, partially below grade basement. The lot size is comparable. But I guess my argument on this one is being on the main channel with views in every direction for miles. And you just can't compare that to one stuck back in a cove with limited views. Ought to be more difference than $55,000.
Well, let me ask you this. Have you got an exhibit that shows your property so we can have an idea of what you're referring to? Or is there one of the county's exhibits that you can point to that?
Well, let's see if the county has. I didn't repeat a lot of the exhibits the county.
Well, what about yours? There's a couple of maps and information in your exhibits. Does that adequately represent your property that you can point to and properties you're talking about?
Well, my exhibit C, it doesn't show exactly which lot is which. Can you pull it up on your computer with the GIS, with the parcel numbers?
I'm sorry, we can't do that. If you pulled it up and showed us, if you could get it where we could view it, that would be different, but we can't pull it up. Is there a county exhibit that shows it? About county exhibit 12, was that to show your property?
All right, exhibit 7 shows my property.
Okay, exhibit 7, let us get there.
Let me see if I can find the other one.
Exhibit 7, there's 2 X's on there. Is that your 2 parcels?
Yes.
Okay.
And the land to the left that goes out toward the main channel is nothing but a high bank with solid trees on it. So there's no view there. And the little bit of water beside it is maybe about 60 feet wide. So it's not a big plus to have that water over there.
All right, go ahead. You said something about a point lot. You want to explain to us what a point lot is?
Well, according to the, all right, look at exhibit 11. Well, they're still not labeled on the counties to show you where this is. This other one is. I had no idea you wouldn't be able to pull up these maps. A point lot, according to the county, in my understanding, is a lot that is surrounded by water on three sides.
Okay,
Now, if you look at the lots that are labeled point lots, there's a lot of leeway on that 3 sides. Some of them are gently curving around, and some of them are very distinctly 3 sides. But if you could exhibit, well, if you look at Exhibit 11, the county's Exhibit 11, out where it says Lake Wiley, you see that?
yes, ma'am.
All right, if you come down to the bottom of the page and to the right, there's an orange point. It says 550 on it. Can you see that?
Well, I see a 55,000. Is that the same one you're referring to?
Yeah, 550,000. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that is the comp 1 I was discussing. So it looks.
And your property is the 2 that are circled to the right of that?
Yeah, up in the cove.
Okay. Go ahead.
So our point lot is valued at 495,000, and this one's 550,000. And there ought to be more than $55,000 in difference in the 2 lots. Because of the views. I mean, you've got miles of views on this one out in the main channel, and just a little bit out in front of our house on ours.
Okay, what else?
Okay. Let's see. Let me find the comp page again. All right, comp number 2. Do you still have that page with the colors on it? The county page? Was it?
13?
Yeah.
12?
Yeah, it's 13, and the page is right before. All right, this one, let me look at my notes. Trying to see what I said about it. It's a point lot, but it's twice as big as ours. It's also in a cove, but it's twice as big as ours. So, once again, there should be more difference in the value than approximately $25,000. The house is bigger. It's all on one level. It's newer. So that's all the notes that I have on that.
Ms. Todd,
Yes.
this is Commissioner Michelle. Could you tell us on Exhibit 11 where Comp 2 is?
Can I show you on the map?
Exhibit 11.
Oh.
Where Comp 2 is. You just showed us, I think, where Comp 1 is.
Well, let me see. If you look at their Exhibit 12, shows where all 4 of these comps are in relation to ours. Let me look at this other page. Exhibit 11. I don't believe it's going to be on there. It's too far up the river, the lake. But I would say it's a comparable lot as far as location goes, except the lot's like twice as big and the house is all on the level. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions on that one?
No, go ahead.
All right, number 3. It's not a point lot. And it is, I think it's right across the little cut from number 2. It's about the same size. It's almost a brand new house built in 2018. It's a bigger lot, and their lot value is only 300, but it is a bigger lot. So I'm not sure, except that it just was a sale they found, that it's really not a comp to be concerned with. It's not a point lot, and it's a brand new house. All right, number 4, the last one. It's 10 miles by road up on the northern end of the lake. It's not a point lot. It does have views of the main channel. It's just off the point. It's a 1-story with a partially finished basement. It's about the same size. So it's really not a significant comp either. So those were just comments I had on their 4 comps. All right. Let me regroup because you're wanting to do your number 1 parcel. Okay. Is the lot next door. All right. It's 0.61 acres, valued at $300,000. Like I said, it's very steep. And we have a permit to put to do the shoreline stabilization now. We have not gotten started because it's kind of a overwhelming project because it is so steep and almost impossible to get to by land. But to make this a usable lot, if we were to turn it into a lot, a buildable lot, it's going to require a lot of money to build this. I mean, you could probably spend $75,000 on the retaining wall down at the water, not to mention, my husband's a general contractor, so I'm kind of familiar with prices. It's probably be $100,000. You'd have to put a basement in it. So, I mean, that just extra expenses that a lot of these lots valued at the same price would not have. If you look at my exhibit, exhibit D, I believe. Yeah. I've got highlighted in green some that are
Give us a chance to get there.
Okay.
Exhibit D in your exhibits, okay?
Yeah. I highlighted different lots that are not point lots, either in our cove or right outside our cove on the main channel, and shows, the differences in values for what they call waterfront lots. Now, the couple up on the main channel that are 375, they should be a little bit more because they're on the main channel. Everybody expects to pay more on the main channel. But there's 2 more over there, a little bit further north, that are under 300, and there's a couple back in our same cove that are under 300. There's 2 back there that are 70,000 a piece. And they're not bad lots. We've been back there looking at them. And if we see right where it says Mecklenburg, where I circled those few lots, those have been for sale for several years. The sign is still up. It says 119 to 199.
Is this still on exhibit, D?
Oh, I'm sorry, exhibit. Yeah, it is D. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay.
So, I mean, they have not been able to sell for those prices in several years. But the lots are just not bringing that kind of money. But I mean, there's really not any for that are 300 there's quite a few that are under the 300 that are not any different from ours. But and the problem that we see, and I talked to the guy that came out from the city about 2 weeks ago to do another appraisal, is they don't bother to get in a boat and ride around and look at these lots. So they really don't have an idea of the difference in one with a straight up vertical cliff to one that has a gentle sloping yard with a nice beach on it. And there should be a good bit of difference in those two lots.
Good question, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Todd, hold on.
Mr. Todd, this is Commissioner Wheeler. So to understand, the lot, is that the lot you purchased in 2011
Yes.
for 250?
Right.
And the house you purchased in 08 at 725?
Right. It was right before everything crashed.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's pretty much all I have on the lot. And the way we've encroached on it now, before we even combined them into one parcel, it was not a buildable lot. And it would never be because of the amount that we have taken over. Okay. The next parcel, number 2 on your record, I believe, is the point lot, the one where our house is. All right, my exhibit C. I have a list of point lots, and they're shown on the little map that goes along with it. And there's quite a few also on the back of this paper where I wrote the list of lots that are, if you look at them, they look like they're clearly should be point lots, but they're not labeled point lots. And those are the ones in orange. Look at the values on the map. There's 3 particularly on the main channel that are valued at $495, which is the same as ours. And there's no way that the main channel lot with great views should be valued the same as ours back in a cove. And if you look at the county's comps, it looks like that they showed the difference at $55,000 between our point and the house that had the point on the main channel. So, if you look at these that are valued at $495 on the main channel, if you took the 55 away from that for ours, not in the main channel, I don't see how you can argue with that. And there's quite a few of them if you look at my list, and some of them are. A good many of them are bigger than ours. There's an acre and a half. There's 1 acre, a little over an acre. There's a couple that are a little over an acre. So That's pretty much my argument on that is the difference in the values based on the main channel point. There should be a bigger difference between those and ours. And there's
So
one.
you're not contesting the value of your house, it's just the land?
No, we're really okay with the value on the house. We've still got a lot of work to do. We've got some stuff in progress, but yeah, we're not really arguing that. It's just the value of the land. I mean, here's one on the main channel for 2 acres, the same value as ours, and there's no way that that should be right.
Okay, anything else?
I think that's it.
All right, cross-examination, Mr. Adden.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Todd, let's look, your appeal cover sheet, you have Exhibit A as a graph from real estate specializing in
Yeah.
decline in years 2018 and 2019. Correct?
Right. Yeah.
And Exhibit A is something from a Drew Choate, the Lake Wiley man.
Yeah.
I just want to point out that the graph that you say shows a decline in years 2018 and 2019 is actually, the graph is the number of waterfront homes sold. It has nothing to do with value.
Right. It just shows that they're not selling, lots aren't selling like they were for a while.
Well, the numbers, the numbers have changed from year to year. I believe in 2018, it looks like there were 68 homes sold. And in 2019, it looks like there were 55 sold, if I read that graph correct.
Yeah. Right.
So this whole Exhibit A has nothing to do with value.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't bring it up because it's really not a big deal.
You're not suggesting that the values of property on Lake Wiley have dropped in value in recent years, are you?
I don't think they've gone up. I do not have hard data on that, so I'm not going to come right out and say for sure on any of it, but just from our observations, we don't see a big increase over the last few years.
In fact, you have no sales data at all.
No, no. I just know lots that have been sitting for years that have not sold they've been trying to get under 200 and some of them under 100 and they can't sell.
And some of those lots that they were trying to get for 100,000 are actually lots that don't have docks on them and they're non-dockable lots, correct?
No, I think they're dockable. You can't put a dock on a lot that doesn't have a house on it.
But even so, some lots you cannot put a dock on because of the locations in the cove and the location with respect to other docks.
That's true.
And that's controlled by Duke Energy or
right. Yeah.
And so if there are some lots that are valued about $165,000, if the county considered them non-dockable, that would explain why some lots may only be $165,000 when you contend that they should be more.
That's possible, but the ones particularly I'm thinking about are dockable lots. I mean, you obviously don't have any hard data either, so.
Well, we will present our evidence.
Okay. Okay.
You contend that the value of your house and lot, the lot number 2, is $650,000, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you purchased the house in August of 2008, the house in that lot for $725,000, correct?
Right. Yeah.
And at the time you purchased it, it did not have a garage, did it?
No.
When did you build the garage?
Shortly after we bought it.
And how much did you pay for the garage?
I don't know. My husband built it himself.
Well, you said he's a general contractor and you're familiar with numbers. I mean, ballpark, how much money do y'all have in that garage?
Maybe 200, but it's not finished.
Okay, so you bought your house and lot in 2008, for $725,000 and you put $200,000 in building a garage, correct?
Yeah,
And you contend the value for the house, the garage, and the lot is $650,000.
yep.
Now let's look at the county's exhibits, if you would. Look at exhibit number 2, or exhibit number 3, if you would, please. These are photos of your property, correct?
Number what?
Exhibit number 3.
Thought you said 2. Okay, yep.
Exhibit 3. You got some photos. So let's let the commission see let's see what we're talking about here. So exhibit 3, the first, that's a picture of, I guess, the deck that faces towards the lake.
Right.
And then
I think what he's showing there is the condition of the deck.
okay. And then the next, let's go through one page. The next page is a view from the right side of your property.
Yep.
And then another view from the right side, the third page.
Yep.
And then another view, this is a view from the porch area towards the lake.
Right.
And then the next is a view kind of more towards the point, correct?
Yeah.
And you agree that your lot is a point lot?
Yeah.
It's got water on 3 sides.
Yes.
And then the next page, next photo is a photo of your boat dock with some jet skis.
Right.
Okay, and that's the steep hill that you talked about?
No. The steep hill is on the adjacent lot.
Okay, we'll get to that, I'm sure.
Okay.
And the next page is another picture of your lot with the house.
Yeah.
And then another picture of lot in your house. And then we get to like a sunroom or a screened-in porch.
Yeah.
And then a deck, is that an outside deck with the grill on the left?
Yeah.
And then another picture of your boat dock.
Yeah.
Then we get to some pictures that are, the first one is part of an email that Mr. Blackwelder sent to me. And the structure in that picture, that's the garage that y'all spent about $200,000 building.
Yep.
And then the next page is actually the view of the premises from the street showing your driveway, correct?
Right. You need to understand that all that grassy area belongs to the lot next door. That's not ours.
Is that part of the vacant lot?
Yes.
Okay. And you own that vacant lot. That's what we call lot.
Right. Yeah. That's why I said, that's what I meant when I said, we've encroached over onto that property. So it's now really not a buildable lot.
And just to make sure everybody's clear, after the revaluation date of January 1, 2019, you combine the 2 lots because you treat them as one property.
Right. Yeah.
So the next page is the structure with the ground siding and all. That's actually the $200,000 garage, correct?
Right. Yep.
And when you purchased the house, you did not have that garage.
No.
And then the next page, that's actually the house. That's the house that you purchased for $725,000, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the next page is a picture looking back at the dock. And does that show the sort of the topography going down to the lake?
Does it show what?
Shows the topography going down to the lake.
Right. On that side. Yes.
Okay. And then the bottom picture is actually a panoramic picture from your property, correct?
Yeah, I guess, but that's pretty distorted.
And then the next picture is a picture that has something that says, look, it's a structure that has Lowe's on it. You see the word Lowe's?
Right. We're working on this.
Is that the garage or what is that? Is that the house?
That's the house.
That's part of the house. And that's just some work y'all are currently doing.
Yeah.
And then we have another picture of the boat dock,
Yep.
and then another picture of the house from the lake showing the,
But this last boat is actually on the adjacent lot.
do you have 2 docks?
Yeah, we have 2 parcels, or we had
Okay,
2
so you
parcels.
have a dock on each parcel.
Yeah.
I see, okay. And so, all right, and then we have a picture with some steps going up to your house.
Yeah.
And then, okay, exhibit 4, the next page, that's actually the dock on the vacant lot parcel number 1.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, and then exhibit 5, that's actually an aerial photo. And then the parceling that's outlined in green is lot, what we're referring to as lot number 2, which has
Yeah.
your house and the garage. And almost looks like the roof area of your garage is more than your house area. Is that correct?
Not really it.
And then I guess we see 2 docks. There are 2 docks in the water. One is with your vacant lot, and then the real nice one with the
Yeah.
blue or silver cover roof is the one y'all use, correct?
Yeah. Pretty much. Well, yeah, we use them both. Yeah.
And then exhibit 6 is the vacant lot that you have.
Yeah.
And then we get to exhibit 7, and that's just really the map that's showing that area of the lake that your property saw, correct?
Yeah.
And then the second page shows it's sort of a real big view, overall view. It shows what you're basically in the lower southeast corner of the county, correct?
Yeah.
And Lake Wiley is a big lake, right?
Yeah.
A lot of activity on it. It's all right. Now, going back to your exhibit B, you would. That's your exhibit where you have the subject property in your comps.
Exhibit B.
Yes, your exhibit B. Your exhibit
Okay.
B, which is the subject property with the comps provided by the
Right.
city, is actually provided by the county.
Yeah.
Okay, you have that?
Yeah.
Okay, now the first comp, the county has valued at $843,300. And that comp actually sold in August of 2017 for $845,000. Is that correct?
I think so.
And that was a 2,400 square foot house. Your house is 2,800 square feet, correct?
Yeah.
And then the next comp, number 2, is about a 3,000 square foot house that sold for $766,000 in September of 2017, correct?
Yeah, I don't have that page in front of me that's got all that information on it. Oh, wait a minute. Here it is. Okay. Okay.
And then comp number 3 is a 3,800 square foot house that sold for $850,000 in July of 2018.
Okay.
And comp 4 is a 2,500 square foot house that sold for $645,000 in 2018, correct? And comp 4 is not on the point.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to exhibit C.
Who's exhibit C?
Your exhibit C, the next page.
Okay. Wait a minute. Okay.
Okay, you agree that your lot number 2 is a 0.896 acre, almost 1 acre lot.
Yeah.
It's a point lot, correct?
Right.
And it's valued by the county at $495,000.
Yeah.
And the numbers, the ones that you have, the point lots that you have that are number 4, 7, 8, and 10. All 4, 7, 8, and 10 are all point lots of about 1 acre in size, correct?
Say that again.
4, 7, 8, and 10 are all point lots
Yes.
and they're all about 1 acre in size.
Yes,
Just like yours,
yes,
and they're all valued $495.
right. But they're all on the main channel.
But you have nothing to support the difference in value for the main channel. No sales to report a difference in value, main channel as code, do you?
Down here, Rose's opinion, 1 before.
You don't have any sales data.
To the day.
Do you have any sales data?
To support,
You testified that in your view, the main channel should be more than a $55,000 difference.
right, that's from the county's valuation numbers.
Right. And you think that, but you don't have any data to support the difference. You're just relying on what the county's provided.
Yeah, what else should I rely on?
And most of the lots, most of the point lots on the main channel are valued at $550,000, correct?
A lot of them are.
If you look at Exhibit 11, there's a lot of red on that main channel. There's $550,000, correct?
So, yeah, so why weren't the others rated that?
Your point.
Okay, let him have a chance to ask the question, then you can answer, and
Okay.
then you'll have a chance for rebuttal as well.
Your point is that we should have valued 4, 7, 8, and 10 higher than we did.
Well, if you're going to be consistent in your valuations of main channel point lots, yes.
Okay.
So
Now let's go to the next page. Lots that should be labeled as point lots.
okay.
Now,
What exhibit are you talking about, Mr. Adden?
pardon me?
Which exhibit?
This is her exhibit. I think it's Exhibit C, the 3rd page.
It's on the back of
The
that
second
first one.
page. Second page. It says lots that should be labeled as point lots.
Okay.
Now, your lot number 6 at 17911 Colrose Lane is a lot that's valued at $405,000. And that lot is right next to your vacant lot, correct?
Correct.
And so your contention is that that lot that is right next to your vacant lot should be a point lot.
Yes, because it wraps around the corner.
And that it should be valued higher than $405,000.
Well, either that or, yeah, or else ours should be lower.
Now let's go to the next page. The next page is a map that has some green and some orange on it. Your property's nowhere on that map, is it?
Yeah, yes, it is. It's on one of them. I have 2 there.
It's not on that first map, is it?
Well, I'm not really sure which one you have as first. But yeah, there is, one of them does not show our lot.
Okay, the one that says point lots and should be point lots, your property's not even in that section of the lake, is it?
No, because I couldn't get the map all on one page.
The next page says point lots and should be points, and I don't see any numbers written on the lot. I just, I see the word Mecklenburg, and I believe your property's right there near the
Yes.
M in Mecklenburg, correct?
Correct. To the left of that, in the green, yeah.
All right, then we get to your Exhibit D, just moving along. Your Exhibit D is your vacant lot, what we're calling lot number 1. It's a vacant lot. We've seen the pictures of it. It's 0.61 acres. And the county's value is $300,000, and you contend the value should be $175,000, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry, I just found my paper. Yes.
And you purchased that lot in December 2011 for $250,000.
Yep.
Now, all the values that are on that exhibit D, those 2 pages, none of those are sales numbers, are they?
No.
You go on to the last page of your exhibits, which is a map.
Yep.
You also pull out the county exhibit number 11 at the same time, have them side by side.
Okay.
Okay, we have that. Okay, so on your exhibit D map, there's an orange lot with an X, and that's the vacant lot number 1 that's valued at 300,000, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And the parcel immediately to the right of that orange is a vacant lot that's valued at 405,000, correct?
Yes.
And all of the other parcels that are on the water on your street are valued at 300,000, as you can see on the county's exhibit 11, correct?
Yeah.
And if you're at the vacant lot, the orange lot, and go due north, right across the water, if you're looking on exhibit 11 and go due north, there are lots that are valued at 300,000. One of them is 396,800. One is 345, and then 300. All those lots directly across the water are valued at 300 to 396,000. Correct?
Yes. But those 3 on the water are the 3 of the ones that I mentioned that were for sale for 2 or 3 years for, I think, under 200 for sure, and never sold. They're still vacant.
Those ones that you circled that have been listed for sale are actually those green lots that the county has at 165,000, a little further up. Correct?
Yeah.
You compare the 2 lots, the two maps.
Up here.
You gotta go in
Yeah,
there.
up here is what I was talking about. Yeah, along in there.
The county has those at 165,000, and the county can testify later that they're not dockable lots. Now, if you were at the pink, going back to your orange dot on your exhibit, if you go across the big cove at about 11 o'clock, 10 or 11 o'clock on the clock, you see a lot of property that is valued at 345,000, 330, 330, 330, directly to your left. There's a lot of yellow, which is properties in the 300,000s, correct?
Yeah.
So what you're asking the tax commission to do today is to ignore all of the lots that are in yellow that are in the 300,000s, and instead treat your vacant lot like the green lots that are sporadic through our exhibit 11. Is that your testimony?
Not really. No. All those that you're talking about over there for 300, 330, those are all pretty flat lots with no 12 to 15 foot vertical drop that's going to cost them another 100 for a basement and 75 for a seawall. Those are all flat lots. Then it backs up to Palisades.
Which are much more valuable.
It's a much more valuable spot.
Oh, yeah.
There were a few saying that main channel, but that's one of the comments, not the main channel.
Yeah, if you would also looking at exhibit 11, where your main house, the house on lot number 2, is 495. There to the left, north and to the left a little, there's a point lot that actually sticks out pretty good. It's 495 also, correct?
Right, but it's got great views of the main channel.
It's in the same cove.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Do you have some redirect you would like to do, Mrs. Todd?
I don't think so. And once again, unless you get in a boat and come around and look at these lots, I don't know how you can look at this map and compare them. You need to come out and look at our 15-foot vertical drop, and then go over and look at those nice lots with a gentle slope and a beach, and tell me that there's not a big difference in them. Not to mention the extra expense that would be involved if you were to build a house on them. And there's no question that the main channel lots at point lots at 495, ours should be worth a whole lot less than that. I mean, why are some of them 550 while some of them 495? And I mean, some of those 495 ones are big lots too. There's just not, it's not consistent, very inconsistent in the values.
All right.
So I know it's an overwhelming project to appraise all these lots, but I think a lot of them are just done in the office without coming out and looking at them. Certainly not from the water.
All right. Do you have any other evidence, Ms. Todd?
No.
All right. Questions from commissioners? All right. So we've admitted all the exhibits. Mr. Adden?
Your Honor, this time I've moved to dismiss the taxpayer's evidence on the grounds that she's failed to overcome the burden of presumption. As you know, the taxpayer has the burden of showing that, well, first of all, the county's ad valorem tax value is presumed to be correct, the IBM credit case. And in AMP, the court addressed that the purpose of a presumption that the county's tax rate is correct. The purpose underlying the presumption of correctness arising out of the obvious utility of allowing a taxpayer to fix the final value of his property for ad valorem taxation. If the presumption did not attach, every taxpayer would have unlimited freedom to challenge the valuation placed upon his property, regardless of the merit of such challenge. The taxpayer can basically say, hey, there are lots of lots here. I can find a few lots that I think are undervalued and should be valued higher, or certainly are undervalued compared to hers. But that doesn't rebut the presumption. To rebut the presumption that the county's values are correct, the taxpayer must submit competent material and substantial evidence that shows that either the county's method was arbitrary or that the county's method of valuation was illegal. And she must show that the assessment substantially exceeded true value and money of the property. She has not done that in this case. The evidence that she has, first of all, there's no appraisal evidence. There's no appraisal testimony. There is absolutely no sales that she's presented other than testifying about the county's comps, which support the county's values. The county's comps shows these sales of properties on the lake of comparable properties in the $800,000, $700,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. So the county's produced some comps. She has not produced any sales. Any sales or data to support her contention. And in fact, her very own evidence defies credibility. They purchased this house and the lot for $725,000 in 2008 at the heart of the recession. They put $200,000 in adding a beautiful garage. And the county's value is only $797, yet they think the value ought to go down. You buy $725,000 house and lot in 2008, you put a $200,000 garage on it, and yet their position, it's incredible that they take the position the value should go less than what they paid way back in 2008. The vacant lot, as Vice Chairman Wheeler pointed out, they paid $250,000 for that lot in 2011. They contend that the value's gone down. That defies credibility. In the Hasty case, the Court of Appeals case from 2011, the courts discussed the type of evidence that taxpayers should need to produce to rebut the presumption of correctness. That type of evidence includes expert testimony addressing both the valuation methodology utilized by the county and the true value at issue. Again, they have absolutely no evidence of what the true value of their house is or any comps. The Hasty case court also said expert witness testified about sales comparison approach and explained the reasoning behind the expert's conclusion. That's the type of evidence that the commission should be looking for. In Hasty, the taxpayer made his determination of value by averaging 3 tracts, which in his opinion were comparable. There were no adjustments for time of sale, no adjustments for distance from his property, no adjustment for water frontage or access to deep water, no adjustments for attractiveness of view or desirability of neighborhood. And the Court of Appeal said that's not sufficient evidence to rebut the presumption of correctness. And so that's not competent material or substantial evidence. In this case, if you look at the Exhibit 11, that the county's Exhibit 11 that she testified about, if you can see that a lot of the main channel lots are $550,000. They're better property than her, better views. But you also see that point lots in her cove are $495,000. You can see that base lot value for lots in that cove is at least $300,000, $330,000. And yes, there are some lots. You can pick and choose some lots, but she did not explain why those lot values are different. She did not say, a simple explanation is those lots that are $165,000 are non-dockable, and nobody wants. If you're going to buy a lot on water, you want a dock. In short, it defies logic that the value of their property with the improvement of that garage and that lot and their vacant lot have gone down in value like they suggest. And so I ask that the commission grant the county's motion and dismiss this case at the close of their evidence. Thank you.
All right, we'll go into Mr. Todd. Do you have things you'd like to respond to Mr. motion?
Yes, I have a couple of things I would like to point out. Can you give us just 1 second?
All right. You might want to mute for a minute.
Okay.
Until you're ready to come back on.
Okay.
All right. You may respond to the county's motion to dismiss.
Okay. Well, first of all, the differences in the lots he's just picking and choosing to suit him as well. There is a point lot in our cove also that's valued at 467, back in the back toward the end of the cove, with views all the way out to the main channel. If you look out on the main channel, Exhibit 11, I mean, there's one down here that's almost 5 acres for 550. I mean, there's just no consistency in this, and I don't see how he can argue that. Now, I took a picture of the sign down here on these properties that are for sale for 129 to 199, and the sign says dockable waterfront lots for sale. And I mean, this sign's been there for 2 or 3 years. So, as far as our purchase of our house, you know, we bought it at the end of 08, right before the crash, and we knew we were paying too much for it, and we sure paid too much for it as soon as it crashed. I mean, the house is still original, built in 1987. Has a lot of work to be done to it. We did build the garage, but we built it ourselves, and it's not finished. It's not heated. It's not plumbed. It's not, I mean, it's not finished. It doesn't even have a final inspection on it. So these are all just improvements that we've done ourselves. And is there anything else you want to add? I guess that's it. Lots are not all the same.
All right, questions from commissioners? Okay, we're going to go into executive session, discuss the motion, and when we have a decision on the motion, we'll be right with you when we arrive at a decision. Okay?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. And Ms. Todd, can you hear me? I see you.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Adden?
Yes, we hear you.
All right, I think we've got everybody back online. The commission has deliberated on the county's motion to dismiss and has voted to grant the county's motion to dismiss unanimously. We will, of course, be getting an opinion out, and it'll explain some of our reasoning, Ms. Todd. I know it's difficult sometimes for the taxpayer to understand the way the law is set out and our duty and how we have to view in the county's presumption and what it takes to get past that presumption. But we'll try to set some of that out in the order that'll be coming forth probably in 30 to 60 days. Thank y'all. You did a good job with presenting your cases, and we appreciate it. And this time of doing it with virtual is different than having in-person hearings, but for taxpayers, it's probably much cheaper than having to come to Raleigh and the expense of doing that. So we hope to be able to have the possibility of getting back to in-person hearings when things improve. We'll probably still give the taxpayers an opportunity to use virtual if they prefer that. But thank y'all so much, and we stand adjourned unless there's anything else that we need to do on the record. All right, we're adjourned. Ms. Rice, we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Let's leave it.
Oh, Mr. Adden?
Yeah, wait, yes.
Let me point out, you cited that Hasty case, had a chance to look at it, and for today's hearing, that is an unpublished case. So when you're going to cite an unpublished case, there are certain things that you need to point out and do.
All right, yes, thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, are we off yet? Okay.